Hello everybody, thank you for coming here tonight, and I'm delighted to be here as a guest of the FSB to present one of their Inspire workshops on social media. I've called it Social Media in the Real World, and that will become clear as I go through the presentation. Before I start, I'd just like to tell you a little bit about myself. Am I one of those social media experts? No, probably not. I've worked in media-related businesses since 1987. I've been involved with the launch of 3 newspapers in Scotland, including a free community weekly newspaper and 2 weekly tabloids. I've worked in nearly every newspaper from Campertown to Wick, if you go north to south, and east to west, Skye to Banffshire, including the Oban Times, the Highland News and the Inverness Courier. I've trained the editorial staff and the advertising staff at the Oban Times and Scottish Provincial Press when they computerised their publishing system, and I've launched and edited 12 newspaper websites for Scottish Provincial Press. I went back to working as a journalist for a couple of years while I was SVP, and then I decided to go it alone on my own as a digital web agency, and I launched Canary Dwarf in 2008. I now run another company called Chit Chat PR and Digital, and between them we offer a series of social media and other digital media marketing services. It might be interesting to note that I think I was writing tweets 10 years before Twitter was here, because tabloid headlines are rarely more than 140 characters long, so I like to think I had a lot of experience, a lot of practice. So I've called it Social Media in the Real World because I believe that there's 2 camps that we need to be aware of as businesses. One of them is consumers and one of them is businesses. And we don't necessarily want to do the same thing for each. Consumers using social media will do what they like. They'll share pictures of their cats and their cakes and their selfies and things like that, and that's fine. There's no rules. They can do what they want. But businesses, on the other hand, are quite different. And I think the danger has been that they've copied what the consumers are doing, and they're making mistakes as they go along. So what I hope to do tonight is give you some advice about what you can do as businesses to be using social media to good effect. So what is social media? Well, it's hundreds of software applications that allow people to connect in real time on a multitude of devices. And that's where the consumer aspect comes in. You know the numbers. Facebook has 1.3 billion users. Twitter has around 500 million, and Instagram has roughly the same. They're in a war at the moment, competing against users. But there's a lot of people. But what we want to know is, what is social media for business? And if you recognise that picture from the earlier slide, it's from a film called Matrix, where one of the main characters, Morpheus, offered another character, Neo, a choice of red and blue pill. If you've seen the film and you know what choice he took the red pill. But if you take the blue pill, you carry on believing that social media will magically bring you more customers, more sales, and more advocates. But if you take the red pill, and I hope you will with me today, you'll wake up to the reality that social media requires a radically different approach for your business to benefit. And if there's one thing that annoys me about social media, it's this phrase: remember, it's social media. And people emphasise the social bit. It's not called social for nothing, they say. And it's quite true that it is important to remember that. But in saying that, we're kind of forgetting about the media side of it. Okay, the social aspect of it is that it needs engagement. It provides engagement between our friends, for consumers and customers and suppliers. When we use it in business, it gives us an opportunity to make conversation. We can have fans. All these things are social, but look at the media side of things. How often do we think about the networks that we're creating? If we are creating a network of customers, are we also creating a network of suppliers? And how do those work together? Do you end up talking shop because you've got a lot of similar type of businesses on your list, and then alienating your customers in doing so? Distribution, this is a really important thing. This is a really important media aspect of social media, is that you're distributing news and information about your business through these networks. The links that we create through hyperlinks and real world links by connecting with people, these are all things that you should think about with the media aspect of it. Don't forget the media aspect of it. And in many ways, I see this, and I certainly encourage my customers to see it like this. The social aspect is the bit that you might call free, and the media aspect of it is the bit you might want to start paying for. So you end up like this, because the free bit is easy and it's cheap, and you end up doing lots of social and not much media, when it really should be like this. You should be balancing things out a little bit. Do you remember when you were a child and you were in a sweet shop and your mother told you could only pick one? You wanted the whole lot? It's a bit the same with social media, really. You should only really pick one or two, otherwise you'll be sick. So which ones do you pick? You pick the ones which fit the best. And which ones those are will depend on your type of business, the type of customer base, what they're using. There's a good phrase going around called be where your customers are. And if your customers are on Facebook, it's no good just being on Twitter, and likewise the other way around. So I'm going to focus briefly on six big ones: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram and Pinterest, because they're the ones that are probably going to be the ones that are also on your list of interest as well. There are other ones to consider, like Snapchat, Periscope, as we're being broadcast today, through Periscope, the greatest social media of the last 6 months. Periscope Meerkat, which is a similar thing to Periscope, Blab and Vine, they're all interesting newcomers. So you've probably heard about reach on Facebook, and reach is a very interesting topic because all the posts that you post on Facebook don't necessarily reach all of your fans. Now you probably know that, but what you maybe don't realise is how Facebook calculates who sees what post. So this chart shows us that for the businesses that have, or for the pages that have less than 1,000 likes, get 10 times more than the pages that have 1 million likes. So it's not always a good idea. It's not always doesn't always go that the more likes you have, the better reach you get. It's actually the other way around. And why that is the case is, if you think about it, somebody with 1 million likes, if they reached 20% of their audience, they'd be reaching 200,000 people. It's quite a lot of people. But you know, a business with 1,000 likes would only reach 20%. It's a much smaller figure. So that's one part of the calculation that Facebook uses in its distribution. But there are many others as well, such as the type of post that you put out, whether it's a picture, whether it's a video, whether it's text. At the time of day you post it, obviously, whether or not it's your users are online when you post it, and all sorts of things like that. Lots of calculations go into who sees your post. But the interesting thing is why this is the case. Why do only a portion of your people, of your fans, see your posts? Now, I had one person at a presentation recently. I got to this point when they asked me, "So you mean only 20 people out of 100, and 20% of people are going to see my posts?" And I said, "Yeah." Now, on average, of course. You know, if you're really engaging on your Facebook page, that might be a little bit higher, but it'll never be like 100%. And he got up and walked away. Yeah, he got up and walked away. I made him stay a little bit longer for the next bit, but it still didn't convince him. Many marketers are reluctant to spend money on social advertising because they believe it should work without paying, and I think that's fair enough. We've all come to believe that social media is free, and that we can get it all for nothing. But I'd like you to get that thought out of your head right now. I'm going to use Coca-Cola as an example because it's probably the biggest Facebook page in the UK. It's got 93 million likes. And I did a little bit of a study on it. The most recent post, which was made today, is about the rugby. Coca-Cola sponsors the Rugby World Cup, so you can imagine they've probably got a lot of engagement. That post on the left, which is the most recent one they made, has got 1,400 likes. Fair enough, I wouldn't mind that myself on my page. The one below it, which they made yesterday, has only got 25. So 25 likes from a page which has 93 million fans? That's a bit odd. So I went and looked at the last 10, and they go something like this. 10,058, 6,037, 13,038, 79, 139. So on the whole, pretty poor reach for some of those posts there. Pretty much of them are all about rugby, which has got a lot of interest at the moment. And if I posted an article about rugby on my page or any of my customers' pages, I would expect it to get more likes than that. It works out over those past 10, average likes per post at 3,200, again, which seems a nice number. But when you calculate it from 93 million likes, it's 0.003% of 93 million, which is not even 1%, it's not even a tenth of 1%, it's not even a hundredth of 1%, it's 3/1000ths of 1%. Conversely, here's a local page which only has 2,350 likes on the page, but it has 223 times higher engagement than Coca-Cola. It's got a lot less likes, but it's got a lot better engagement. Coca-Cola spend, it's worth saying this as a disclaimer, Coca-Cola ad spend about £30 million on their advertising campaign. I don't know how much of that goes towards Facebook advertising, but you have to ask yourself, why bother? Even the small page, when you consider it's got 223 times the likes, that doesn't equate to much either. So why bother? And this is exactly the question I was asked by another person who was having some Facebook training, that when I explained that they would only get 20% reach from their page likes, they said, why are we bothering? Why are we doing this? Why are we wasting our time in our business doing this? And what I said to them was, by being on Facebook, you've got access to a fantastic resource called Facebook advertising. And if you calculate the 93 million likes and the 20% or the 2% reach that you would get from that, it comes out to about 190,000. So to pay for advertising to reach 190,000 people will cost you £850. Probably about the same as an ad in the Daily Mail, which would reach a similar number of people. But we don't want to do that. We don't want to spend £850, and we don't really want to reach 190,000 people. We want to reach something like 1,000 people for £5, because in that 1,000 people, we can fine-tune our audience. We can pick the people that we advertise to. So if we're in the food business, we can advertise to a specific audience that we think are going to buy our product. If we're in the hardware business, we can advertise to a specific audience. And look at this. These are the kind of audience demographics you can narrow it down to. You've got the UK there, which will give you 38 million prospects. Then you can narrow it down by age. You can narrow it down by gender, men and women, or both. You can narrow it down by language. I've chosen the parental demographic there, but you can see from that you can narrow it down very specifically. If you sell products that are related to people with children, you can narrow it down to a couple of years age group quite easily. And then beyond that, you can then narrow it down even further to their interests. So you've got a whole rake of interests here, a whole rake of behaviours. So you can pick people, you can choose to advertise to people that are travelling. And how does Facebook know where people are travelling? You don't plug into Facebook, I am travelling, or I've left my home. That would be a silly thing to do. So what you do, and so what Facebook does is it knows that people are away from their home, and then it puts them into a category because it knows their location. It puts them into a category if they are travelling. So then it gives us that information to be able to pick on those people and say, let's advertise to those. And we would use that in the sense that, so we would probably do mobile advertising to people that were travelling because they probably wouldn't have a computer. But having these access to these magnificent demographics really makes the advertising on Facebook work well, and that's why we only want to advertise to a very small audience. We don't want to spend £850 advertising to 160,000 people, because how many of those will buy from us, we wouldn't know. So it's just basically like advertising in a newspaper, and we wouldn't want to do that. So here we can see also you can advertise to specific pages. You advertise to the people that like your page. So if you've got a very inactive page, you can just advertise to them for a small amount of money, or you can advertise to the people who like somebody else's page, which is quite good. On Twitter, it's much the same. You've got different different process of going through the demographics. But here's an example. We've got TV shows. It will allow you to target people who watch individual TV shows. Most sort of popular TV shows will have a hashtag, and so Twitter will know when people are watching those shows, and it will put your advert in front of those people when they're doing that. And so remember this when I talked about balancing out social and the media. Well, once you get the hang of doing this paid advertising and it's working well for you, you know how much you spend and you know how much you're getting in as a result of that. You can start to up the media side of things and maybe reduce the social side of things a little bit. And so then it becomes a viable product. You put money into it and people are getting a benefit from it. You're getting a benefit from it as a business. So what do you do when you what do you advertise basically? You're just going to advertise the posts that you ordinarily put out there? You're just going to pay to boost them? Well, not really, because they don't really necessarily produce anything. What you want to do, what you want to be doing, is creating things on your website that people can go to and buy or get download or get it, take part in. So sign up to something, and then that gets them onto your mailing list. So by being on your mailing list, you've then got another audience that you can advertise to. So generally, what people do with us with social media is that we'll we won't necessarily try and sell a product directly on Facebook, but we'll use the social to get people interested in what the company is doing, and then we'll use another route to sell that product, because it's not necessarily the best way of leading people to something where they would pay for something straight away. So that is social media in the real world.
Thank you. We had a few questions come in over Twitter. One of them, I think you got to at the end. She said, what's the best way to spend my marketing money on Facebook? And I think as you kind of were talking about, the content of the post is key.
Yeah, it depends what the audience is and what the product is, of course. But if you've got something we as a company, we don't like to encourage people to discount too much, but if you've got something that is discountable, that's a good thing you can use to direct sell on Facebook. Otherwise, if you don't want to discount, what you can do is try and get people onto your mailing list. That's the biggest benefit you can get from that. It's a longer process because you're not getting a direct sale from it that day or even that week, but selling through email is much better. It's much easier. Right. Than selling through social media. So if you can get people onto your list by giving them something free in exchange for an email address, that's a good way of spending your money.
And do you think there's slightly different rules between Twitter and Facebook, or kind of same concept applies?
In terms of advertising, yes. I mean, it's just Facebook is the one that I focused on there so much because the demographics are so good and it's got such a user base. It's easy to use Facebook advertising because practically everybody is on it and everybody is already automatically logged into it. So that's why Facebook is a good starting point. So I would always recommend if they're on Facebook, I would always recommend somebody starts with Facebook advertising before they venture into Twitter advertising. There is an interesting concept where you can combine the two, and I don't mean advertising on one and advertising on the other, but actually you can use Twitter to get information on buyers that you can actually feed into Facebook and then advertise to them. That's quite a convoluted process, but it's one of those interesting hacks that can produce a really good result.
Cool. And we also had a question come in from Talulu, which says, tweets. She said, I've read that tweets with images get the most impressions and the most kind of uptick. How do I get this right?
How do you get the what?
How do I get it right? Sort of.
Okay, that's a really interesting one because yes, tweets with pictures do get more engagement. With Facebook as an example, picture posts also had the same amount of the same sort of was in the same situation where the post with pictures got the most engagement. But then Facebook changed that because it wanted to take control of the situation and it promoted videos above that and text posts. So you could argue that don't fall into the trap of saying that picture posts will get the most engagement, because what everyone tries to do then is all post pictures, and it becomes then so oblivious that it's actually not being effective anymore, and people are struggling to find pictures that are relevant to what they're doing, and they're thinking, I must post a picture, I must post a picture, I must post a picture, so they'll post a picture that doesn't actually tell the story or sell the concept.
Right. Okay, great. And we had another one that came in from @Let'sGoSocial, which says, it's a question about tone. So should tone be different across the different social media channels?
That's an interesting one. I think if your business has a tone of voice, then you should consider that when you're looking at both channels.
Mm-hmm.
If you find that that tone can be altered slightly for an individual channel, then I think that's okay to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great. We still have some more coming in from Twitter, but if we have any in the room, please feel free to interrupt me. Of course. Carry on. Okay, we've got this one. So Seeing Sticks, a small business, tweeted, fans, followers, or likes. What should I look for? What's kind of my measurement of success?
Okay, so if you're doing advertising, the measure of success should be click-throughs.
Click-throughs, okay.
Yeah, so fans, followers, and likes are all great, but they should consider them a byproduct of your advertising. So you want to get people to click through to your other digital assets. If your advert isn't, if it's like a post engagement, then likes would be the metric. But normally you would want it to lead to something that people took action with, like
right.
a sale or a sign up.
Right.
Because with post engagement, you're only raising awareness, not actually leading to new business.
Okay, great.
Mark, can I ask a question
Yes, of course.
about social media for different types and sectors of business? Do you ever say that a certain sector should look at a specific social media platform, or is it really across the board, just about the size of the business? Or
Yeah, I mean, one time, B2B, for example, was really difficult on Facebook because of the nature of it. But now with the advertising being so well tuned, then you can use it to business people, whatever sector they're in, even in B2B, are people at the end of the day, and they get their messages from the media that they read, whether that's newspaper or Facebook. You probably couldn't advertise a drilling service, oil drilling service on Facebook, but you could advertise to people that were in that business, because when they've gone home and they're reading through their Facebook, things that will interest them are things that relate to their business. So you've got to be really careful about how you do that. You've got to use your common sense to a degree, and say, are people going to be interested in this? What's going to appeal to an engineer, for an example, when he's looking at Facebook? Because he's probably not going to be looking at Facebook during the course of his workday for engineering supplies. You might be looking on LinkedIn for that, and that's where you should consider LinkedIn as almost as a search service, where people would be going looking for that type of thing, but then put things in front of them related to their job title and Facebook.
We also had one come in from @TomFlynn, which said, of all the social channels, which should I focus on if I'm short of time?
Does he say what business he's in?
No, he doesn't. Which I thought might be your answer.
Short of time.
Be strict on yourself.
Yeah. I would say Twitter, because it requires a less amount of effort to put into it.
I see. Okay.
It would depend on his business, though.
Yes. Oh, I guess the next question is quite good to follow up on that. It's Moses is an accounting firm. What social media channels are best for B2B businesses?
Well, LinkedIn is the obvious one because it's a network of business people.
Mm-hmm.
As I sort of just said in the last question, then you can put messages in front of business people through Facebook.
Yeah.
Because business people have real lives as well.
Important to remember. Great. Well, thank you.
Can I ask?
Of course, yes.
In your opinion, Mark, is there any media channel that actually brings results of sales for certain types of businesses?
Pinterest will do that. Pinterest is really highly tuned for direct sales, because it usually links through to a product sale page. So, for example, if you had a Pinterest board with products on it, that tends to, for whatever reason, be almost like a catalogue. And I think I had a little think about this the other day, and I think it's because the layout of Pinterest is much different to the layout of Facebook and Twitter, for example, which uses a single timeline, whereas Pinterest uses a multi-column approach, which is a bit like a classified ad section. And I wonder whether or not that has got anything to do with that. I think it's got a lot to do with the fact that when you click on it, you go through to a product sale page, and it happens to be very female orientated, and it's the female products that, female orientated products like clothing and cosmetics that sell quite well.
I've never used Pinterest. So.
Yeah. So obviously, if you've got a male audience, that's not going to work for you. But so you remind me what your question was? Is there one particular channel
that will actually bring about sales for somebody?
Okay. It depends as well as how you can model your product sale process as well. If you've got something that you can give away or discount, then Facebook will work really well for you for that, because people will click on it, they'll buy into the free product, and then you can use it, email to sell to them. So that works well in some markets, but not others, because let's just take an example. Furniture, for example, there's not much you can do to give away there that would then result in somebody coming back to buy something. But for services, consultancy services, Facebook works quite well, because you can give away something that's intangible, and then you can come back for something that's tangible. It's almost like you're giving away another advert to people, which confirms what you're trying to say to somebody, and they think, oh yeah, that's for me, I'll go back and buy it.
So really, you're saying use it like a loss leader?
Absolutely, yeah.
Mm. And I guess just from our side, we've got Small Business Saturday coming up, and it's this big day of the year. And kind of how would you recommend a small business takes to social media to make the most of the day?
Yeah, that's a good question. Obviously, that comes into the whole hashtag thing, doesn't it? Using hashtags to appeal to communities. Small Business Saturday is a great example of a community that's built up around this wonderful way of promoting small businesses. But let's take hashtags as a business incentive. By using a hashtag that brings a community together, you again only talking to that community. So you're excluding all the people that aren't interested in it. By using hashtag, because what a hashtag does is it links everybody together that's using that same word.
Mm-hmm.
So Small Business Saturday, somebody sees a tweet with that, they click on that. They don't have to be following all the people that are using the hashtag, but they suddenly have access to this great community of people that are talking about the things that are going on Small Business Saturday, and advertising to a new audience that they didn't have before.
Yeah.
They don't have to be liking these people to interact with them, but that's a great way of getting new people liking your business.
Cool, great. And we have one other. I've used Facebook ads for a few months, but I'm not getting many sales. Do you think I'm getting the audience wrong?
It's a bit difficult to be able to ask them questions back. But,
exactly.
It could be that you're getting the audience wrong, or it could be that you're just trying to direct sell. And you need to find a different route into that. To give you an example, cosmetics, just take that as an example. If you're able to give somebody a guide as to how skincare products work and how they're safe, that might be a good way of getting people hooked into your mailing list. So you could say, here, take this free guide. How we make our products without animal testing, for example, and they would download that, give their email address, and then you can include those people in your monthly email. And the conversion rate from email is much higher than it is from social media.
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool. Great. Thank you.
Yes. Link to that question about bloggers and bloggers, and that's something that we're reading a lot about now. How can small businesses use that effectively, or use those?
Okay, so that's quite easy to get into, but it requires time and effort. Okay, so it's easy enough to write a blog if you can write, or to do a video blog if you've got an iPhone. That's all you need. But finding the time to do it is difficult for small business people, because it does require time to write something proper. I would say, don't just put any old rubbish out there. Write something that's really good, and it's quite commonly said that write the best thing that you can about the topic, rather than just meet a deadline. So if you aim to write something once a week and you can't find anything to write about, you just wait another week or wait till you've got the time. And it's a bit of a difficult decision to make because it means you're losing grip on your schedule. But at the end of the day, if you publish stuff that's no good, then people stop reading it. It's a time thing, really. Yeah.
And what about, we read a lot about the really successful bloggers and vloggers that are out there. How does a small business try and reach them? Someone that's got so turning it around. So rather than you being the blogger, the video blogger, utilising those ones out there.
So utilising those ones out there, I mean, appealing to their nature, I suppose, is the right thing to do. So if you've got a really influential blogger and you're in the same market as them, make contact with them, write for them, provide them with a link to something that you do that you think that they'll like, and they might even write about it. It comes back to the journalism side of things that people send products to newspapers to write about them. Now they send them to bloggers because they're hoping that they write about them. So that's one way of doing it.
Thank you.
Mark, there's a selection of apps like the giveaway tabs. I tried it a while back now again, but not really being, well, it was pathetic. What's your advice of using something like that?
What's the giveaway tab?
No, I can't remember which one I used at the time.
Is it on Facebook?
Yes, Facebook.
So like a tab that you install?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So an app that you install, and so you put on a particular offer. It might pose a question.
Yeah.
And if you got the question right, then you win a prize, kind of thing,
Right, okay.
or that kind of thing. And it wasn't very successful.
I think that was, that was a couple of years ago, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Facebook was finding its feet and trying to find a good, businesses were trying to find ways of using Facebook, and these apps seemed like a great idea, and for some people maybe they did work, but at the end of the day, the best place to convert customers is on your website. So if you can get people off Facebook and onto your website, then that's where the conversions should take place. And that's what advertising would do effectively. It would be just heightening the chance of people getting people off of Facebook. And it's a bizarre thing, really, because everyone wants a Facebook page to get people on it, but actually what we want to do is get them off the Facebook page and onto the website, because that's where the conversion takes place.
Depends on the nature of your business.
Yes, I suppose it does to a degree.
Although I don't see what I'm involved at the minute as a business, you could actually see it, and it's about promoting other people's events in the area. So through Facebook, actually good, because you really do want that social side. You want people sort of talking about Facebook and about the different events coming up, and it's a good. I quite like the idea of having that half and half.
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely right, because balancing it out does have a good effect, but we're also good at the social bit of it, because that's what we've been practicing for the past sort of 10 years, is that, because Facebook is curbing it as well, stopping people from seeing stuff, then obviously, that people argue that that's because they want to make money, and it could be right. But there's also, the Facebook advertising, you can use it specifically for events, so, you can have an event and then you can promote that event. It would be great if you didn't have to do that, and if you have a really engaging audience and you have, and it works for you without paying, then absolutely, you're doing a good job.
I think it depends on the event and the product as well, because the event I was talking about earlier that I'm helping out is the beer festival. It's just taken off.
Yeah, well, beer.
beer, sausages and music. And just all right, and people are conversing, so it's very much dependent on the product that you have as well.
Absolutely, and so that, like it was said earlier, you don't always know what's going to take off.
No, it's just amazing, because you can do exactly the same thing on something else, and just say, why are we not getting the same kind of engagement?
Yeah.
I'm just sitting there and thinking, oh, this is great. How can I link it to the other people?
Yeah.
Just introduce beer.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that, it's also intelligence like that as well, that you should put to good effect. Don't just think, I had this great post and it was about beer and it took off. Of course, you can't replicate that all the time, but you can use the insights and the analytics that you've got in Facebook to have a look, spend an evening or a day going through the statistics and seeing what people engage with and seeing if there's a pattern there. And you can increase your organic engagement by doing that. You know, you don't just have to throw money at it. You can, you know, you can spend time on that. I mean, the great thing about it is that if you're able to spend X amount of money on advertising and getting a return for that was scalable or repeatable, then you've got more time to spend on the social aspect of it and analysing how, you know, what bits are working. And what you definitely don't want to do is think, oh, the advertising's working for me, I don't need to bother doing the social bit now, because there is still a role for that.
That's the fun bit.
It is the fun bit, yeah. And there definitely is a role for it in customer care, and, you know, Facebook is now measuring the response rate. That, you know, if somebody sends you a message to your Facebook page, Facebook will measure how quickly you respond to it, and it'll give you, you know, it'll tell you if you're not meeting the sort of supposed
And it amazes
criteria.
me how many Facebook pages don't reply to comments and messages, and you know, and some of it's actually media pages. Interesting. You know, again, why have a Facebook page if you're not engaging with the comments that are coming in?
Yeah.
Great, Mark, thank you so much. I'm going to take you offline now. So thank you from our online audience. That was fantastic. And we can continue the questions here in the room.
Thank you.